What's going on, guys? This is episode 1 of the Lift Heavy Roll Hard vlog. I'm going to be taking you through a full body strength workout for grappling athletes. If you're looking to build a foundation of strength so you can just be brutally strong as a grappler, stimulate some muscle growth so you can get jacked, this is a great workout that you can follow along with. We're here in a nice empty gym, so we're going to crank up the music and get started. I like to start every workout with a little bit of mobility work. I'm a huge fan of foam rolling and myofascial release work at the start of my workout. I know a lot of people say, like, you don't want to foam roll before you lift because it's going to decrease your power output and all that stuff. And I'm not saying you should, like, go get a deep massage before your workout, but at least for me, I like to have a little bit of some myofascial release work just to relieve some of the tension in my body from the previous day of training or whatever's going on. So I've got to find the foam roller, whoever used it last. But usually I just use a foam roller, a softball, a lacrosse ball, something that I can dig into a couple spots that are a little dicey. And then we'll do some active mobility movements that are just using just your body weight in a band. And then we'll get started. And nothing else matters. Never care for what they do. Never care for what they know. But I know. Mobility and the warm-up is done. So let's do a quick overview of today's workout. Like I said, it's a full body strength workout. We're gonna start with kettlebell hip shift to hit the lower body first. Then we'll do some full range of motion push-ups, banded pullovers, some work for our neck. Then we'll do some upper and lower body accessories. We're gonna hit our shoulders, smash the hamstrings, and get a really good lower back pump. Remember, it's important that you stimulate positive strength gains. You stimulate positive gains in muscle growth, conditioning, whatever your training goals are, but you don't annihilate yourself in the gym to the point where it has a negative impact on your ability to train on the mat. Exercise number 1 for this workout is going to be the kettlebell hip shift. You can use this as a warm-up exercise, as a strength exercise. I'll even show you guys in a little bit how you could use it as an explosive power exercise for jiu-jitsu. But really what we're doing is, you can almost think of it as like in the same way you would shift your hips all the way over in a Cossack squat. You're doing the same thing with the kettlebell hip shift. The key things I'm looking for when doing this exercise are to really load up my hip and my hamstring, and then that big meaty muscle on the inside of your thigh, your adductor. So I like to keep my knee directly over my ankle, push my butt back, and then lean over all the way to one side. So I start leaning over to one side. I really feel it in my glute here. I feel my adductors working. I feel a little bit of load, kind of like a loaded stretch on my hamstring. I'm keeping my knee over my ankle the whole time. I try to come over and get a little bit of twist in my torso on the top end, and then I come back. I'll hit the other side. We're going to be doing 6 sets of 5, and the goal for this is, at least for myself and what I'm working on, is I want to improve my ability to absorb force really quickly and then be able to reproduce that force. And so what I'll do is I'll start just going slow, just like that, as I warm up on this exercise. Then I'll start kind of transferring quickly from one hand to the other. Boom, boom, boom. So stopping that force coming down, reproducing, bringing it back up. Boom, boom. And we're still warming up, so as you get more comfortable with this, you can start adding a little bit greater range of motion on the twist. Maybe like let it touch the ground between reps. And then as you start warming up, getting more comfortable with it, you start adding a little bit of load and moving some weight. So a question I often get is, what weight should I use for a given exercise? Like if I'm showing an exercise on Instagram or on YouTube, people say, what weight do I use for this exercise? And my answer is always the same, like whatever you can do with proper form and technique and still match the intent of that exercise. So for this exercise, I want to move fast and explosive. So I want to use as much weight as I possibly can, as long as I can still move fast and explosive, and I'm still maintaining proper form and technique. What's great about this gym, shout out to Mark Bell and the Power Project for letting me use their facility, is that we got a full lineup of kettlebells. I think that one right there is 88 pounds. Something like that. Yeah, I think those are 88. And then there's some over here that are the big fellas. I've swung this one a couple times. This is 124. And then this one right here, I can hardly move this one. What is that? 203. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be using that at all today. And then this one is another big one. That one's 150. So I don't know if I've swung the 150 before. So usually when it comes to figuring out what weight works best for any given exercise, I always suggest just starting at the bottom and then working your way up the rack until you figure out what feels best for the given exercise and what you're intending to do with that exercise. Now that I've done a few warm-up sets on the kettlebell hip shift, we're gonna move into our working sets. The goal for this workout is 6 sets of 5 reps on both sides. I wanna be fast and explosive, really improving my ability to absorb that force on one side and then be explosive and transferring it over to the other side. And I think last time I did this, I used a 53-pound kettlebell, so we'll see if we work up to the red one, which I think is 72. So we'll see how it goes. Three, four, 5. Woo! That felt pretty good. So we got 6 sets total. That felt like a really good first working set. So I'll do probably 2 or 3 sets at that weight, and then I'll see if I can get the last 2 or 3 at this 70-pound kettlebell. 3, 4, 5. Whoo! That's feeling good. Feeling good. All right, let's jump up to the big fella. Well, I guess it's like redheaded stepchild, because those are the big fellas over there. But when I first started training and I was doing CrossFit and we would do kettlebell movements, I think the biggest kettlebell at most gyms was the 72. And I remember the first time I swung the 72 for like 20 reps unbroken. I felt like I was so ridiculously strong. And I remember the 72 was, it was like a mental barrier. Sometimes you kind of like put these mental barriers on certain weights in the gym. Like even with dumbbells, this dumbbell rack, it ends at 50 on the top rack and then starts at 60 on the bottom rack. And so sometimes with certain exercises, you feel like you have this mental barrier on certain weights. You're like, well, I can do 50s real easy, but I kind of get sketched out and, you know, things go a little haywire when I just move up 10 pounds and go to the 60s. And sometimes that can just be because the 50s are so close to your limit of strength, and then 60s are a little bit, you're biting off a little bit more than you can chew. But sometimes it's just visually seeing that, like, oh my gosh, I'm moving from, you know, the teenager rack to the big boy rack. That can be mentally a little intimidating. And sometimes it's just good to like have such a wide variety of weights, so that way, at least in my mind, I think it would be good to not have numbers on some of the weights, so that way you just get a feel for it. So like kettlebells are kind of hard because obviously this kettlebell is smaller than that big one you guys saw, but if they had a gym that had no numbers on any of the weights, or like you didn't know how much it weighed, but you would pick it up and know like, okay, this feels heavy enough. The goal for the workout is to get 5 reps on each side. I can get 5 really good quality reps. When I try to get 5 at this next kettlebell. I'd have no idea what weight it is. It feels a little bit sketchier, so I'm gonna stick with the one I was using before. I feel like that can kind of help people get more out of their training sessions. But on the other end, numbers are good because then you are kind of always looking to make small incremental improvements. So going from like 45 and then knowing like, okay, I'm just gonna bump things up 5 pounds and go to the 50s, or go to 50s and then move down to the lower rack and go 60s, that's definitely important too. So I'm not sure if my idea would land well on Shark Tank having unlabeled weights, but we'll see how it goes. All right, here we go. Whoo! That felt good. I'm gonna go to the 88s today. We'll see how it goes. This song, it always reminds me of my my guy Sully. Sully is hands down one of the best training partners I've ever had. And here's the story about how dedicated and disciplined Sully was. Sully was the most disciplined person I've ever met. He was a power lifter. We were both training at a super training gym. We both were working for Mark Bell. And we would lift together at like 4 in the morning. We'd get our workout done before work. And so we'd lift from like 4 to 6:30 or 7, and then work, 8 to 4, 8 to 5, and Sully sometimes would stay later and do some other stuff. But he was so crazy, ridiculously strong, and so intense. He would get so locked in, like that no one could bother him for anything. He'd always wear this beanie. It didn't matter if it was 100 degrees in Northern California and a hot, unconditioned gym. He would wear a beanie that like would just barely come down, like barely show his eyes, and he was fully locked in. And he would always do these crazy lifts, like over 4 plate benches, squatting mid-high 700s in the gym. I think he squatted 800 in competition, doing high 600, low 700 deadlifts, just ridiculously strong. But he would always train to the weekend. Obviously the weekend's not playing right now. We got Tupac on the aux now, but he would always lift to the weekend. And I always thought the weekend was like kind of soft and like not real good gym music. And then I saw Sully just bury so many squats and smash so many 4 plate plus benches listening to the weekend. I was like, all right, I can get behind this. All right, next set. We'll make this set number 5. Whoo! That felt good. That felt really good. All right, let's get a. Dang, you could tell no one uses this one because it got all these cobwebs and all this stuff on there. So we'll dust off the cobwebs for the last set. Another question people ask a lot is, how long should I be resting between sets? And rest periods can get kind of dicey. Some people say, oh, you should only rest 60 seconds between sets. But depending on what you're doing, 60 seconds may be way too long, and 60 seconds may also be way too short. So usually I just default to rest as long as you need to still have a good, productive next set and still be able to match the intent of the workout. And so sometimes that means that you are purposely not wanting to be completely rested going into each set. Like if you're doing density training, where you're trying to improve your kind of general fitness by getting a lot of work done in a very short period of time, or maybe you're doing some more traditional dynamic effort training where you want to be hitting sets like almost every minute on the minute, that would be part of the intention of the workout. And so your rest periods should reflect that. If you were doing max effort training, where you're trying to literally lift the most amount of weight you possibly can, or at least produce the most amount of force you possibly can against a really big resistance, it's totally okay to rest 2, 3, 4 minutes between sets sometimes. For bodybuilding training, obviously, like you want to maintain your pump And for some exercises, depending on what you're doing, you may feel like, oh, I actually feel pretty good only resting a minute. But maybe you do, like you do a set of 20 on hack squats. You may need like 2-3 minutes of rest to let your body recover, so that way you could still get another good productive set on the next set. So rest periods, if you guys are wondering about rest periods, I don't necessarily keep track of all that stuff very often, at least for a workout like this. Like, I just want to be moving smooth and explosive on every set. I'm moving up in weight, so I'm taking a little bit more rest between my last set and this set compared to what I was doing before. But last set, best set, right? All right. Here we go. Up, 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 whoo! Heavy in the game, just like Tupac said. Whoo! All right, first exercise done. Now we're gonna move on to some upper body stuff, some calisthenics, some banded movements, and some neck work. Next exercise is going to be full range of motion push-ups. You can do regular push-ups. There's nothing wrong with regular push-ups, but we do want to get a little bit more of a hypertrophy or muscle building stimulus just from something as simple as the push-up. And doing push-ups on the floor, you're not able to really work through the largest range of motion possible. So having something that can elevate your hands and you can get that deep stretch at the bottom is going to be great for stimulating a little bit more muscle growth. And it's also going to be great for improving your mobility for jiu-jitsu. And not even jiu-jitsu, it could be just improving your mobility in general. But when you are able to work through a larger range of motion and especially build strength and stability at some of those end ranges, you can drastically decrease your overall risk of injury, which no one wants to get injured more, right? So I got these today. The last few weeks I've been doing these, I've been doing them on the gymnastic rings, which are a little bit more unstable. You don't always want to try to just make training unstable for the sake of being unstable. But I got these today. These work. I'm trying to work through the greatest range of motion possible. I'll do one quick warm-up set, and then we'll go ahead and get to it. Usually when I'm warming up on these, I take these pretty slow, and I don't go all the way down as far as I possibly can on the first rep. I usually like take 3 to 5 reps at a time. So I might do 3 or 5 reps at one depth, and then I think this is number 5, so I start to sink a little bit lower, then I come back up, come down, sink a little lower, come back up, come down, sink a little bit lower, come back up. And so, especially when you're doing some of these deep exercises, the goal isn't just to bottom out and hit the greatest range of motion you can and like turn into a wet pool noodle. You still want to maintain stability in the movement, but you just want to focus on trying to almost pulling yourself down into the bottom position. And at the bottom, you should still feel strong and stable. You shouldn't feel like you're going so low that you lose stability and can't press yourself back up. That'd be no bueno. For these, we got 5 working sets, but the first 4 are only going to be to 2 reps in reserve. And so, but all that means is that you're going to do as many clean, good form reps as you can, but leave 2 reps in the tank. So if you feel like you're doing the reps and you're like, gosh, okay, I hit 12, I hit 13 was super hard. I'm probably going to fail at 15. If that's the case, then just stop at 13. That's the mindset that we're taking in for these first 4 sets. And then on the last set, we're going to make that our best one and go for an AMRAP, as many reps as possible. You can almost look at it as like many good, technically perfect reps as possible. So first set, leaving 2 reps in the tank. Here we go. Thanks. 14, 15, 18, 17, 18. Whew. All right, so hit 23 on that one. I felt like I could have hit 25, but that 25th rep probably would have been the last one for that set. So leaving 2 reps in the tank. We're gonna superset this with straight arm banded pull downs and banded neck rotations. Those are gonna be set to 25 on the straight arm banded pull down, set to 25 on each side of the banded neck rotation. Whew. That's tough. If you have access to a variety of bands on that pullover, using a band that's pretty intense or thick can be great, because bands are awesome because they're lighter at the start of most movements, and they increasingly get harder and harder as you get closer to where you have the most leverage. So from like this position right here, when I'm fully extended, I don't have as much leverage. Like in wrestling or in jiu-jitsu, when you shoot in on someone's leg, right? If you hold the leg close, you have a lot of leverage and you're pretty strong. But then when they sprawl and extend you out this way, that's when you become weak. So bands work kind of similarly, where there's less weight here where you're at your weakest, and it matches the strength curve of when you pull down and get closer and closer to your strongest position. So you can overload the strength curve of different exercises, so that way it feels appropriately difficult through the full range of motion, which is pretty cool. And that's one of the great things about bands. Now, are bands better than cable machines or better than dumbbells or better than barbells? Absolutely not. All of these things are different tools, and once you learn how to use different tools, then you can figure out, okay, what tool is going to be best for this particular job or this particular thing that I'm trying to train. You can almost think of it as like in Kingdom Hearts. You know how when you're playing Kingdom Hearts, as you go through the game, you start getting all these potions and summons, and you can like start leveling up your keyblades and stuff. The more you play through the game, at least when I played it, you get like the first keyblade, the Kingdom Key, and then the next one, I forget what the next one you get is. But anyway, you keep working your way up. And for me, when I played, I made the mistake of thinking, oh, just because this summon is new, or this potion or this keyblade is new, I'm just gonna use it because it must be better because it's new. And that's not always the case. There are certain keyblades, there are certain summons and certain potions that you gotta know, that you gotta go into this boss fight, you gotta go into this particular level with the right set of tools. Training and training equipment works the exact same way. So like doing a banded pullover, I know the intent of that is to make the rep as hard as possible from the starting position all the way through to the end position. And the band is one of the best tools to do that. Now for something like push-ups, I want to be able to really get into that deep stretch position at the bottom. I could use dumbbells. Barbells probably aren't going to work as well for that goal because the barbell stops on my chest. But I can use the tools of these little handle things to get that deep stretch that I'm looking for. So if you understand the tools that you're using, you can pair their tool with the job that it's needed for, and you can be a good craftsman. I heard Dr. Jordan Shallow use that phrase. He said, it's not just about having more tools in your toolbox or just adding more tools to your toolbox for the sake of having those tools. It's about collecting those tools and then being a really good craftsman with how you use them. Last set, best set. I think first few sets I did 23, 22, 25, 19. That fourth set was rough. So this one I'm just gonna shoot for, if I can get over 20, that's pretty doable, but if I can get over 25, I think that would be, I'd be pretty fired up about that. Here we go. Six, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, shoot. Whew, I think that was 19. Holy cow. When doing exercises where the goal is to hit full range of motion and bottom out on AMRAPs, it's really important, at least for me. I try to think about, okay, the intent of the exercise is to work through the greatest range of motion possible, and I want to get as many reps as possible, but as many reps that match the intention of the exercise. So if the intention is to work through the greatest range of motion possible, then I need as many greatest range of motion reps as possible. And I felt like on a few of those, it was getting really tough. Like at that last rep on number 19, I hit the bottom, and coming out and kind of like flexing my way out of there was so tough. I felt like I could have definitely gotten more than 20 reps, but not if I was gonna go all the way down to the bottom. So it's important to keep in mind, at least for me, I'll speak for myself. I think it's super important for me to remember the intention of every workout as a whole, and then the intention of each exercise. And the better I can match the effort I give to the intention, the greater results I'm gonna get. So if the goal is to work through the greatest range of motion possible for as many reps as possible, then I gotta match that intention. And you guys can see on the last rep, like that was damn near close to failure. It was as close as we were gonna get without face planting. So that's a wrap on push-ups. We'll get one more set of straight arm pull downs, banded neck rotations, and then we'll hit our accessory work. For accessories, we have a giant set. A giant set is just 3 or more exercises done in one after the other fashion, kind of like a circuit. So we got dumbbell lat raises, we got banded leg curls, then we got reverse hypers. And so the goal for this is, for accessory work, the way I like to think of it is like you're almost putting the finishing touches on the painting. So like you paint the canvas, either you make it all like the background all one color, and then you do like the outline of like the person's face and stuff, and then you start putting in the structure of like their nose and their eyes and all that stuff. And then accessories would be kind of like the cherry on top, not really a cherry on top, but like the touch-up points that you do at the end that still make a huge difference in how well the painting turns out. And so for your workout, your accessory work is oftentimes working on a lot of things that you're weak in, or adding a little bit more specificity to some of the training goals that you have. I'm trying to get jacked. I especially want to have bigger and more jacked shoulders so I can look like C-bum. My shoulders are pretty small, so I'm going to be doing some dumbbell lat raises. Building up my posterior chain is always important, because your posterior chain is the center of all athletic movements. So your posterior chain, your low back, your glutes, your hamstrings, all that stuff. And especially in grappling, you use your posterior chain a ton when you're driving through on guard passes, when you're picking people up to slam them to the floor or take them down. You're using your posterior chain. So I try to end most workouts with a little bit of posterior chain work. So to get jacked and tan, we got some dumbbell lat raises. To work on the posterior chain, we got reverse hypers and banded leg curls. We're doing sets of 25 reps on the leg curls and the reverse hypers, and sets of 15 on the lat raises. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whoo, 9, whoo, whoo. Here we go, 5 more. I have to start mixing some partials and some cheat reps. Oh. Hey, 2 more. Whew. Oh, man. Whew. 10 extra reps since I was cheating on those a bit. 18, 19, While I'm walking over to the reverse hyper, I'll tell you about one of the greatest shows in history, The Bear. This song is In the Bear, and it's freaking, that show is just absolutely incredible. And it's a show about, I guess you could say it's about cooking, but it's hardly about cooking. It's a lot about, it's like kind of like The Last Dance, like a fictionalized version of The Last Dance if it was about running a restaurant and a guy like trying to pursue excellence in running a restaurant. And it's incredible. Any like documentary or movie or podcast or book that's about pursuing excellence and being the best in the world at something, it gets me so fired up, and it's so inspiring. And like, my goal personally isn't necessarily to be like the best jiu-jitsu competitor in the world or like a bodybuilding champion or anything like that. I don't have like competitive sport aspirations, but I definitely strive to be the best in the world at helping people lift heavy and roll hard. And so a show like The Bear, the way it kind of unpacks a lot of the stressors and the intensity of where it's like pursuing something that's super important to you and really trying to give your all to one specific goal or one specific mission is super inspiring. And this song goes pretty hard in the paint when it comes to being a TV show soundtrack. So we'll get one set of reverse hypers on that bad boy, and then we are done with the workout for today. All right, here we go. Six, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whew. And that's a wrap. That's it for this full body strength workout. Now the plan for today is to go home, get some rest. I'm at the end of like a really hard 8-week fat loss phase. That's been part of like a full 12-week training program. So like the first 4 weeks are maintenance, and the last 8 weeks are focused on fat loss. So this is the last workout of that whole program, which has been great. And so the goal for the rest of the day is to go home, get some rest. I think my wife and I are gonna watch Harry Potter since we're officially in October, and we'll go from there. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys have questions about this workout, drop them in the comments below. If you want more information on how to lift heavy and roll hard, make sure you subscribe, turn on the bell notification, all that good stuff. And if you guys like this style of content, this is super new for me. I've never really done a vlog style like this before. I mean, we used to do vlogs a little bit with the AM crew, but just me by myself talking to the camera. I haven't really done anything like this before. So if you guys like this style of content, let me know. And lift heavy, roll hard. Catch you guys later. Peace. Pew.